You're listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
Welcome to the Mammal Watching podcast with me, John Hall in New York.
And me, Charles Foley in Minneapolis. How are you, John?
I'm good, Charles. I feel very content after the wonderful weekend we had in North Carolina, but more of that in a second. Before we go on there, I just wanted to say hello to two of our youngest listeners, two 6-year-old twin sisters, Amelia and Izzy in San Francisco. And I wanted to say hi because I know they listen. And I'm also wanted to say hi because I'm a little bit worried, I have to say, girls. I know when the podcast started, you were very interested in cheetahs and leopards and white tigers. But I hear from your mother that at the moment, penguins are the animal of choice in your world. And I have nothing against penguins. Some of my best friends are penguins. But let's be honest, these are a gateway bird. It's a danger. So I would encourage you to put down your penguin books and start looking at anteaters and aardvarks and armadillos and just work your way through the mammalian alphabet before this goes any further. Please, Amelia and Isabel, do that for me, please.
Yes, mammals are far, far more interesting than birds.
Especially penguins, yeah. Okay. Anyway, backstory. Charles and I went to North Carolina together on the invitation of Todd Pusser. And actually, we got to know Todd because he wrote to us to suggest we interview Bob Pittman, the cetacean guy who was on a few episodes ago, which was one of my favorite episodes. And then Todd also said, look, if you guys are interested, come down for the weekend to North Carolina and I might be able to show you a red wolf and a few other things. So of course, Charles and I went, yeah, when can we book our flights? And we just got back. We had a wonderful long weekend with Todd. We did see a red wolf. I hadn't actually twigged quite how rare they were. We saw one of the last 25 red wolves left in the wild. We had a fabulous encounter with a golden mouse. We saw a stack of river otters. And I just want to thank Todd again. You, Todd, are such a great guy. You gave so much time and effort to show us around. And apart from all the wonderful sightings we had and the photography lessons, Todd's a great photographer too. I have to say that North Carolina for me is now a contender for like one of the best places in the US to see mammals. I had no idea it was so diverse there. You've got an ocean with 27, I think Todd said, species of cetaceans have been recorded. Really weird stuff being washed up on the beach, stranding all the time. We just missed a harp seal. Hooded seals happen on the Outer Banks quite often. And then you've got Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge, it's just empty of people and full of mammals. And then there's the mountains with a whole different set of species again, right behind them. So North Carolina is, I think, a much underappreciated destination. And I'm certainly going to go back there. And I think other mammal watchers should go there.
Yeah, I think that was the thing for me. I had never heard of anyone talk about North Carolina as a mammal watching destination. And yet I had one of my best mammal watching days in the US over there. And it's certainly, for me, I'd say it's almost certainly the premier mammal watching destination on the East Coast. So the first day, and it was a warmish day, so there was a bit of wildlife activity, but in 24 hours, we saw a red wolf, 4 black bears, which are very common over there. And Todd says that in the summer, he's seen up to 23 black bears in one field. We saw 5 river otters, 5 Virginia opossums. We saw nutria, raccoons, and as well as many of the common things. And then when we went to a different place to look for rodents, we saw 5 rodents, including the golden mouse. That was on a separate day. Now, of course, we were traveling with Todd, who is probably the premier naturalist for the Carolinas. But despite that, I think that people who would go and visit the Alligator River Reserve would probably see a fair chunk of that mammal diversity. And it's a beautiful, beautiful area. And there's another park over there called the Dismal Swamp. And it's full of wonderful creatures, and even
far from dismal.
Far from dismal. We even actually spent a bit of time watching some of the reptiles, including a cottonmouth. cottonmouth snake,
Yeah.
and some fantastic turtles. So there's a whole range of things. And apparently you saw a very rare bird, which Todd informed us was very rare. So short-eared owl, wasn't it? Anyway,
Short-eared owl, yeah. They
some
get
type of
excited
owl,
about that,
which
apparently.
birders get very excited about. So anyway, we also snagged one of those.
Yeah. So yeah, I think for sure, if often get messages to the website saying I'm going to be in the US for a few days for work, and any suggestions on where I should go. And anyone sort of coming to the East Coast with just 2 or 3 days who wants to see a range of US mammals, I can't think of anywhere better than the Outer Banks, than the Alligator River. So
yeah,
really great place. I'm going to go back for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you so much to Todd for taking us around, and certainly going above and beyond, particularly on the rodent front.
Absolutely. And I'll put up a link to Todd's site because he has some extremely good pictures that everyone should see. I think they're beautiful. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
Well, Charles and I are extremely pleased today to be joined by Chris and Mathilde Stuart from their farm in South Africa. When I first began mammal watching back in the early 1990s, the very first field guide I ever bought was the Stuart's Guide to the Mammals of Southern Africa. So it's extremely exciting. I've got a bit of a fan crush here to be actually talking to the people who wrote that book. Many of you will be familiar with their field guides and their apps to mammals, both in Africa, but also beyond the US, Europe. They are prolific authors. They are scientists, biologists, and all-round mammal enthusiasts. Welcome to the podcast, Chris and Mathilde.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I'm glad you can't see me blushing.
Yes. Welcome, both of you. It's so wonderful to have you on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So could you start by telling us a little bit more about yourselves?
All right, ladies first.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry to have to correct you there. My name is a German name. I'm originally from Austria, so you would pronounce me Tilde or Mathilde. I come from Austria. I came to South Africa in end of 1983 on a 3-month holiday. I had just finished my medical studies in Innsbruck, Austria. I met Chris here by chance, and I never flew back to Austria. I was fascinated with his approach to nature. He showed me Africa and the wildlife in Africa, which I had never ever known before. So, yes, my background is medically trained, but I have learned a lot from Chris, and I have kept my medical work up, but I'm basically his teammate in this project of books and apps and travel and IT and whatever else it needs.
All right. I was born in England, Yorkshire. I had an interest in wildlife from a very early age, partly encouraged by my maternal grandfather. At the age of 14, my parents decided to emigrate to South Africa. And yeah, I never looked back. I mean, Africa is a great continent for wildlife. It's got its other problems, but for wildlife, it's a great place. I studied here. Okay, and after I met Mathilde, at that stage, well, I previously worked for conservation authorities in the Cape. And then I took over the curatorship of the vertebrate collection in the Albany Museum in Grahamstown, Grahamstown in the Eastern Cape. When we met, there was an opportunity to break away from the civil service, which I dislike intensely. And that's when the action started, when the work started on the first field guide, which John knows. And yeah, we haven't looked back basically. So that's a brief summary.
Wow. So that was your very first field guide.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah,
Oh, and when did that one come out?
Originally 1988.
Okay, yeah. So I must have
1988.
bought- yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how many field guides have you written since then?
Well, we've done 32 books since '88. Of those, the main field guides are the field guide to the mammals of Southern Africa, which has been much updated recently. The larger mammals of Africa, which is now also in, I think, 5th edition. Okay, then we did the field guide to the tracks and signs of Southern, Central, and East African wildlife. So these are the principal field guides, and then other books spun off from these.
Mm-hmm. And I believe you have now expanded into certainly Europe and the US. Is that correct?
Yeah. The thing is, we spent 3 years in North America, based out of British Columbia, where Mathilde had a medical practice. So I had to keep myself busy. And so I started collecting information on the mammals of North America, which include, of course, Canada, the US, and northern Mexico. And yeah, after we came back to South Africa, produced the app to the mammals of North America. And then we also spend, well, before the COVID nonsense, we spend a lot of time in Europe because we also have a home in Austria. And that led to the development of the mammals of Europe, also in app form. So yeah, we keep quite busy.
Yeah.
You do indeed.
And I'm curious, what are your bestsellers? Is it the actual books themselves, or is it more the apps?
Well, the thing is, the apps are more recent. The bestsellers have been the three main African field guides, the two mammals and the tracks and signs. The app's been relatively recent, but they're doing quite well. People seem to like them because one of the things is one can put a lot more information in. Mm-hmm. We can include video, we can include sound. And for us, we actually, we prefer a paper book. I think many people do. Mm-hmm. But the apps themselves, they do have a lot of potential. And one of the most important things is they can be updated more frequently. I mean, the field guides in our other books, normally updates take anywhere from 4 to 6 years. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the apps, well, when we started, we were hopelessly too optimistic. We said we would be able to update them every 6 months, especially because of taxonomic changes, distribution, new information. But of course, this was way too optimistic. So we ended up, now we're doing it on a more or less a 2-yearly basis, the updates.
Right. And I suppose one of the huge advantage of an app over a book is the fact that you can take 6 apps and there's no weight at all, whereas you carry 6 books around, that's often half your luggage allowance on some of these small planes.
But you must also remember that all our books are available as ebooks for tablets.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I suppose the apps would require internet access, but the ebooks would not. Is that correct?
No.
That is not correct. The ebooks the apps are downloaded while you have good internet connection, and then you do not need any connection using the app in the field.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So once it's there, it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
And
okay.
another big advantage I find for apps in the field is, if I see a rat run across the trail and I'm like, what is that? The first thing I always do is I look at the range maps and I go backwards and forwards and try and narrow it down. with your apps, Chris and Mathilde, one of the things I really like is that you can select your country, I think, or your state, probably in the US, and then you just see a list of possibilities there. So it automatically, you know, is a huge labor-saving device to get down to some of the suspects. So I think that's really, really helpful as well.
Yeah.
The new apps will also be able to search for not only your locality, but also if you are in a national park, for example,
Oh,
you
wow.
can put that into your search, and the habitat that you find yourself in. So that helps
Nice.
even more.
Yeah.
And that's why we haven't been doing a hell of a lot of mammal watching recently.
Yep. It's a big
Good.
job.
You're sacrificing yourself on our behalf. We much appreciate
Oh,
it.
absolutely, absolutely. But it's okay. We don't mind. We don't mind.
So one of the tricky bits of writing field guides, particularly in places where there hasn't been a lot of science done, is how do you identify and how do you get information on the small things, the rodents and the bats? What's your sort of go-to place to get information? Let's say you go to a new area, new country, on finding information on the smaller animals.
Well, there are several ways. I mean, number one, we've spent a lot of time in major museum collections. I mean, for example, Smithsonian in Washington, British Museum in London, Koning Museum in Bonn. I mean, many museums. So you go through the collections. Okay, we recognize that a lot of this is historical information. A lot of these specimens are very old. So of course, areas change, habitats change. But this was a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And we built up a massive database. Okay, then of course there's literature searches. Okay, which has been very extensive. There's a lot of, even in obscure areas, there's a lot of material out there. In many cases, not published, but if you have the contacts, you know the people that are working in the field or have worked in the field, then this is also an excellent source of material. And on top of that, of course, we do survey work ourselves. We do a lot of biodiversity surveys. I mean, for example, going back to the colleagues, the people that have spent time in the field in obscure areas, you may have heard of David and Mary Happold. They were the mammals of Africa. They were heavily involved in the production of the 6 volumes.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a huge wealth of knowledge, and they've been willing to share that with us, and many other colleagues and friends. So I mean, people often ask us, well, how do you go about putting together a field guide? How do you get the information? How long does it take to write the field guide? Actually, to write the field guide doesn't take long at all. Well, 6 months, 12 months. But it's the gathering of the information that takes years.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of seek a little bit here, a little bit there. You have to pool all of the information. That's what we've done over many years.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, my wife and I and some colleagues wrote a field guide to the mammals of Tanzania, and what took the most time was simply getting the mammal list for all the national parks. That alone took 2 years. So I know where you're coming from on that one.
I mean, the thing is also, I mean, with many of the African national parks have never really been properly surveyed for the small species.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're involved now with African Parks, the organization, who are managing several parks in Malawi, Zambia, and elsewhere in Africa. I mean, for example, the Mangochi forest in Malawi, we have no idea what small mammals actually occur in this big chunk of forest. And it applies to many, many other parks. I mean, in South Africa, most of the parks have been reasonably well surveyed, Namibia as well. But further north you go, the less we know. So I mean, we know there are still gaps. Of course, there are gaps.
Yeah, exactly. That's that's the thing. And sometimes you look at a map, you'll pull all the data together, and you'll have one record from the very south, one from the very north, and perhaps one from the east. So what does that mean? Does it mean it's found across the entire country? Does it mean it's just found in those areas, etc.? It's tricky. It's it's as putting together a good range map is as much an art as it is a science, and particularly because then you've got animals which will sort of disperse to areas that they're normally not found in, etc. So how do you pull those in as well? So yeah, it takes a long time, doesn't it?
No, I mean it's that's why I say people often ask, well, how long does it take to write a field guide? Well, I say it doesn't take very long, but it's actually gathering all the information, and we know there are gaps. I mean, we accept that there are gaps when we put these field guides and apps together, and one always hopes that people then come and say, but this species occurs here, we've got photographs, and they send these in. So then when you do updates, you have this additional information.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The further north in Africa you go, the harder it becomes. And you said that you also do surveys. What sort of surveys do you do?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Mammals, biodiversity surveys, in the sense that we look at all vertebrates, especially in really isolated areas where other people haven't operated. Okay, our primary interest obviously is the mammals. The mammals are our primary interest. But because we're going to these areas, we also look at the reptiles, we look at the amphibians, we look at the fish. I mean, for example, in Kasanka National Park, where we did surveys a few years ago, no one had looked at the fish populations there. We ended up with 2 new species. I mean, we're not fish people, so we obviously hand this material on to others. And so wherever we are operating an area, then we try to look at the whole spectrum, concentrating on the mammals, but we also look at other biota as well.
That is, I mean, it's amazing the amount of work just to do one of those books. With all those different pieces of research, you all that data you pull together to go into that would keep a team of 20 people busy, and yet you're doing it not just for mammals but for everything and for 3 continents, and it's incredible. I'm extremely impressed with your ability to get work done. I wish I could work like that. I'm also
distractions. There are also distractions.
Yeah, well, you handle them better than I do.
That's a nice thing with Mathilde. She's very good. Well, she's Germanic, of course, so a good disciplinarian.
Right.
If I tend to deviate too much, then she reins me in.
Okay, good. German efficiency. Yeah,
absolutely.
So the idea of going to a place that hasn't been surveyed and looking for stuff. I mean, for me, it would be mammals because I wouldn't know anything else. But just generally looking for biodiversity, that would be my dream job right there. And you've done this, in many places in Africa where few people have travelled. One of the things, regular tourists find when they go to Africa, or regular mammal watchers go, is you go to these places and you can see some amazing things, but there's a lot of rules and regulations, often with very good reason, because people will get eaten without them. But there are also now places in Africa where you can get away from some of this and poke around and look for bats in caves and look for rodents and things, which is what we like to do once we've seen the big 5. What are some of your favorite places in Africa to mammal watch, especially places where you can get away from the rules and do your own thing?
All right. Well, first of all, okay, we can often survey areas where other people can't. Okay, it doesn't apply across the board, of course. I would say, all right, we like the Namib Desert. That's one of our favorite stamping grounds.
Yeah.
Often it's better to operate on private properties. Because then you can use your Sherman traps, you can use your bucket traps.
But once you go, say for example in South Africa or Namibia, you can go to one of these big farms, ranches that are close to parks, or like here in the Karoo, they have huge pieces of land. You talk to them, you tell them what you're looking for, they're usually extremely interested, the landowners, and they will support you. I mean, I think, John, you were in Dunedin, south
I
of
was.
London.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, we have talked to the owners there, and I know they are extremely interested, and they will take much joy in showing you once they know as a visitor from overseas, you're interested in this little stuff. Because most people ask us here in the Karoo, well, what is there?
There's nothing in the Karoo.
Look down on the ground and look
Yeah.
for tracks, and ask the people that live there, go out in the night with a torch. You can't do that in the national parks, no. But
I mean, the thing is, as I say, I mean, where we're operating in some parks, such as those operated by African parks, okay, we can go in, we can track, okay, photograph, release. But really, the private properties, I mean, if you're not kill trapping, there's usually not a huge issue. Okay, if you go the official line in many countries, I mean, it's just a rigmarole of red tape, forms, and it's a real pain. So, but the private properties, there is usually, especially if you're not kill trapping, if you're live trapping, it's usually not a problem. But we've never experienced a major problem, either here or in North America or in Europe.
Yeah, no, I second that.
And when you trap these, do you always try and get photographs of the animals that you're trapping? And do you have any particular tips about how you get your great photos?
Well, we make with the small stuff photo sets. We usually carry, well, let's call them boxes. You know, there's a setup. You can, they're small. You can put the local soil there, the rocks, the vegetation. You have to make a set. I mean, there's no way you're going to get decent shots of some of the shrews or some of the small rodents in the wild.
Yeah.
Without a set, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Abbott's Dyker, of course. Yeah, you got that. That's different. But I mean, the small stuff. I mean, in most cases you have to have setups.
Charles and I were actually doing this at the weekend. We'll talk about that. We probably already talked about it for the episode because we're going to talk about this at the start. But we were there with a seriously good photographer, and he was using a collapsible photo product tent, and it's basically just a white cloth tent with wire that pops up, and it was perfect for mice. And you can get the camera in at eye level with the mouse, and there's sort of various flaps and things you can put the mice in, but it worked really well. It looks a bit artificial. I mean, we didn't try putting anything inside, but you can put a black background in, which looks like it's at night. And I don't know if you saw my golden mouse picture that was taken that way, but it's,
Yes, but that system worked really well, particularly I think with the dark background, because as John says, then it looks as though the animal's at night, and you can put a little stick in there or something, and it was a great photo.
So, I mean, it's not. We don't look on just cheating. It's not photoshopping as such. You're trying to show the animal, and you're trying to show the detail.
Yes, I think with this, I mean, for a field guide, you're trying to highlight the characteristics of the animal that someone is likely to see in a field, and so you need the best photo possible. So yeah, putting it in a little enclosure really makes sense, I think, with those small animals.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, if we didn't do it that way, we wouldn't have half the photos of the small stuff that we have.
Exactly. Just a blur of a tail at the end of the screen as it runs away. I mean, for people who live in Africa, I sometimes imagine it must be a little bit hard to travel and enjoy it for wildlife, given this how spectacular your continent is. But you've traveled extensively outside Africa. What are some of your favorite non-African places for mammals?
All right, we both fell in love when we lived in North America. We both fell in love with Alaska and Yukon.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's good wildlife and very few people. We also liked New Mexico. So they were favorites in North America. We liked Belize. in Central America. That was quite special. And Australia, I mean, we lived in Australia for a while. And once you're away from the East Coast and southwest around Perth, I mean, you've got a lot of wild areas and an amazing amount of wildlife. So
Yeah.
even in Europe, I mean, where we live in Austria, I mean, the hope is too many people. But I mean, just a couple of kilometers from where we live, we have European beaver, otter, and I mean, the wildlife there is also amazing. So we don't really have a favorite. I mean, wherever we are, we find something, we enjoy.
Yeah.
So going back to Africa, there are some species which have certainly been high on my mammal list for many, many years. And I know that many other people are very keen to see them. And most specifically, the striped weasel, ground pangolins, and really any of the golden moles. And I know that the two of you are experts on some of the small mustelids, including the striped weasel. And I was wondering if you had any tips that you'd be willing to share with us about where a dedicated mammal watcher might be able to go to try and find some of these species.
Well, you've really selected the most difficult of the lot. All right, the striped weasel, I mean, it's actually pure chance. As far as I'm aware, there's no one doing research on them at the moment. I mean, 30 years ago, a guy called Dave Rowe in KwaZulu-Natal, he did a lot of work on them. That's where I saw most of my striped weasels. But he was dedicated for 3 years doing nothing else but looking for them. One of the problems in Natal now is that they're very high on the MUTI list, the traditional medicine. So they are trapped, well, they're snared on quite a high level. So Natal is no longer really an option. What's interesting is that in the last 10 years, they've expanded their range into the Southwest Cape, which is a big surprise because they're always associated with grassland. And there they've penetrated the Fynbos areas, the Makia, and also into the vineyards of the Western Cape. But with the striped weasel, in our view, it's either a roadkill, which is rare, or extremely difficult. All right, with the ground pangolin, there were a couple of studies going, one on a private game reserve in the Kalahari, southern Kalahari. There they're tracking pangolin, but it's not easy to get in unless you prepare to pay the fees for the camp. But there they could show you the pangolin fairly guaranteed. A friend of ours in northern Namibia, he had a project going, but it was partly funded by the tourists coming to his game farm. Okay, since COVID came along, the tourist industry has collapsed, as you're probably well aware. So that project has gone by the board. So I can't really help you much with the ground pangolin. So it's also a pure chance. The golden moles, extremely difficult. The best chances of seeing golden mole are Rimatalpa, which is Grant's, and the Narmid golden moles, now 2 species. They are active often on the surface in the dunes. There are a few places along the Narmid dune system where you have a fair chance. There are a couple of places that do catch them and show the tourists, but generally,
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I can send you the details.
Yeah, we'll include the link. That's cool.
All right. The thing is that with all the other golden moles, many of the museum specimens, certainly in South Africa, actually are cat kills. the domestic cats, kill them, bring them back to the owners as a gift.
Yeah.
And then the owners then give them to the museums. So many of the golden moles in South African museum collections actually come courtesy of cats. I don't like cats generally, but yeah, they've served a purpose. But golden moles are extremely difficult. There's a project going now on the West Coast. They're looking at 2, possibly 3 golden mole species where they're using DNA, not catching the animals, but taking material out of the feeding burrows and identifying them from the DNA. So that would also be a possible option to be in touch with those people, but they're not physically trapping.
Right.
So that's about, I mean, that's not very helpful, I'm sorry.
Well, I know I'm an optimist. So what I got from that was that if I go to a vineyard in South Africa and sit there for long enough drinking wine, I'll see a striped weasel.
Absolutely, yes. Maybe see 2 striped weasels if you drink enough. It's really, I mean, they're really difficult to look at. As I said, the ideal was, as I say, years ago, this colleague, he was working on them. He knew where to look, but he's long retired, so it's an opportunistic thing. You see them or you don't.
Yeah. I think those small mustelids are probably the hardest of all of the mammals to try and find. Take John looking for a long-tailed weasel in the US. How long did it take you, John, before you saw one?
It was 9 years, and I still never seen a weasel in the UK, even though all my kids have. And they're just, I was always looking in the wrong direction. Yeah,
that's right. So just got to be opportunistic. So, oh well, one day.
We'll keep you posted.
Thanks. Yes, if you see one in your backyard, let me know.
You probably will now tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, the last question is really about, you must have had so many adventures and things I'm sure have also gone wrong from time to time. Are there any stories you'd like to share with us?
All right. When we did the biodiversity surveys in Kasanka National Park in Zambia, okay, you both have heard of the great influx of straw-colored fruit bats there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've been there.
And there, okay, Mathilde was doing a publicity video for the park, well, for the Kasanka Trust. And we got a lot of footage of the bats, interactions, raptors hunting them. But she wanted to get some footage of the crocodiles that came out during the day into the river to actually hunt the bats, because the bats were hanging very low. And so we found the perfect place for her. And then, okay, 2 big trees had fallen across each other. And we thought, right, Mathilde's going to be perfectly safe here from the crocodiles. We were about to set it up. And the next thing, a 4-meter black mamba cruised over the one tree. So that plan was changed.
No, I want to just, it's actually, that was my first introduction. It was my test whether I could go with on real trips, if I would make it. So my first outing with Chris in Namibia, we go look out. We hear frogs. We have to now catch frogs or look for something.
So not just mammals.
No, it's not just mammals. But then, all right, so we march out, head tortoise, spotlights, and wet shoes and the usual. And all right, so now I'm wearing a coat because I'm cold. Now Chris picks up this thing and that thing, and then there goes a dead shrew in my right pocket. There goes a bullfrog in my left pocket. And that's so young.
That confirmed it.
That was okay.
So then she was.
So yes, carry pockets, put in all the animals that have to be collected. Part of it.
So then she was approved.
Right. And what have been some of your favorite encounters with animals or mammals that you've wanted to see for a long time and you've finally come across them?
All right. we did a lot of biodiversity work in the United Arab Emirates and Oman, also a good few years ago. And the real highlights were there that, number one, no one had really done proper survey work in that area, and especially in the mountains, the big wadis. And so we went out, we got, well, some of the areas were inaccessible except by helicopter. So the local Air Force very kindly flew us into a few sites. And there, okay, we discovered Blanford's fox, which had not been known from that part of Arabia before.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Egyptian spiny mouse, and we got the first sightings of Arabian tar in Wadi Sikit in the UAE for many, many years.
Oh, nice.
And so that was a highlight. Okay, with the Blanford's foxes, we trapped some, live trap, photographed, released. Same with the Egyptian spiny mouse, the Arabian tar. We were out in one of these wadis. It was terribly hot. I mean, 40 degrees, and we'd walked for, I don't know, several hours. And we came back just below our camp, which is on the top of the wadi. But we sat down at a pool in the wadi, and then we were exhausted. We were finished. And then we heard a snort and a stamp. We thought, what? So we stepped back, we looked up, and there was a female Arabian tar with a youngster. And that was the first record in the UAE for many years. So that's one of the highlights.
Magic, yeah.
Wow, yeah. And just for the audience, a tar is a goat-like creature.
It is indeed. Okay, in the Namib. These inselbergs, these isolated granitic inselbergs that are scattered over the Namib plain, central Namib. And there's one place that's very special to us. But there, if you want to see Jamison's red rock rabbit, this is the place. You don't have to look for them. They come to you at your campsite.
Oh, wow.
And I actually suspect this may be a new species because they have a different appearance, much longer ears. They differ from the ones in the northeast and the Limpopo province and into Zimbabwe. But anyway, that's by the by. But we set up our camp there. We often go there, and we have our bowl with wash water. And they just come down. They want to drink. They don't have access to free drinking water.
Wow.
But they actually come down to our camp and drink. We don't put it out for them, but they come there. That's special.
That's
it's also
great.
one of the best places to see dassy-rats, petromus.
Mm.
So, it's not always having to see a new species. I know you guys, I mean, yeah. But it's something for us. All right, if we see something new, it's great. But also watching, sort of run-of-the-mill things. For us, it's also special.
So by now, you must have seen probably the majority of the mammal species in South Africa. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say we probably. I've seen. I would say probably. Didn't do any calculations beforehand, but I've probably seen at least 90. Yeah, probably 95%.
Wow.
That's
impressive.
Yes.
Is there anything in South Africa that you haven't seen that you would love to see?
Not really, because I mean the ones that I haven't seen are actually a couple of the very obscure shrews.
Yeah.
I mean all of the big, medium, most small, I've seen already. I mean, I always like to see them again. It's not that I want to see them once and I've ticked them off, then I don't want to see them again.
Yeah.
And Musa the mouse. Yeah.
Chris and Mathilde, thank you so very much. It's lovely to talk to you in person, even though we've corresponded over the years a lot. That was wonderful. I envy your lives. And just thank you for making the time to join us from South Africa. It's wonderful to hear of all the adventures and work you've done around the world. It's really spectacular and such an asset for people like me who just follow in your footsteps and use your information to try and tick things off my little list.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you indeed. It was really fascinating hearing about your stories and your work.
You've been listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.